Here we go. On tonight's episode of Knicks Fan TV, we're going back to the draft talk. And we're going to take a deep dive on Devin Vassell with special guest Corey Taluba from the Hardwood Herald. We're also going to talk a little bit about Zach LaVine, the pros and cons of a potential Zach LaVine trade to the Knicks. We're going to talk to Corey about that, a little Tom Thibodeau, and of course, taking your phone calls. Phone lines are up 657-383-1509. So let's get right into it. Salute to Knicks Nation. How's everybody feeling out there? Monday night Knicks, CP from Knicks Fan TV checking in. Special guest tonight. He goes by the name of the Hardwood Herald, Corey Taluba. Corey, how you doing, man?
I'm chilling, man. How we doing?
Doing all right. You know, a little rainy night over here in New York, but you know, it could be better, could be worse, man. But let's get into it, because you've been doing these NBA draft breakdowns for past couple months lately, and I was definitely feeling a lot of them. That's why I wanted to invite you onto the show. And your recent edit was on one Devin Vassell.
Yes, sir.
Now, he's a guy with, you know, the acquisition of Tom Thibodeau. He's a guy that has, you know, fallen on Knicks fans' radars as of late. Tell me, what do you like about Devin?
Man, this kid is probably my favorite defensive player I've ever scouted. He, you know, 6'7", long, rangy, can guard from 1 to 5, and you know, he did, because Florida State switched everything. His team defense, I've never scouted somebody who is more intelligent as a team defender as this kid. He reads the game so well, and because of his measurements and his high IQ, he could just do so many different things on the court. So just watching his tape, I would have to, you know, rewind some of these clips, because I'd be like, damn, like he saw that from a mile away, like before the point guard even knew he was going to pass it. Like, Vassell was there waiting for the pass. Like, he's just so intelligent on the defensive end. And then on the offensive end, he's a kid who's knocking down 40% of his shots both years in college, gets out in transition, finishes well at the rim. I mean, he is like the ultimate 3-and-D wing for, you know, this era of NBA basketball.
As you said, man, 41.9% from three this year, 6'10" wingspan, high IQ. You know, Florida State's defense is always highly touted. Leonard Hamilton always has his guys getting after it. I like this kid's skill sets, man. I like this kid's skill sets as a rangy, you know, guy that can get out there, block shots, rebound, get out there on the break, and then, you know, the 3-point percentages. That's a nice look for a 3-and-D player in a Tom Thibodeau style type of system.
And look, you mentioned Tom Thibodeau. This kid, to me, like, when I watch him, I see a modern version of Luol Deng. You know, somebody who could, instead of shooting the mid-range like Luol did, he's a guy that steps out, just extends his range a little bit, but he plays within himself. He doesn't force shots. He doesn't turn the ball over, average less than one turnover a game. He waits for the game to come to him on the offensive end. And then on the defensive end, you know, he's going to be a guy who you want him to go check the Paul Georges of the league. He can go check, you know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He can check, you know, some power forwards in the NBA, and then small in spurts, you know, he'll switch on centers. So yeah, he's a guy that is, if you know, he went to the Knicks and Thibodeau was his coach, Thibodeau's gonna love this kid. And you know, I could see him putting him in that Luol Deng role and just, you know, patiently waiting for his offense to grow. But from the jump, he's going to be one of the smartest defenders on whatever team he goes to.
And I think that's key. If Tibbs is going to come in here and implement, you know, that strong side defense, you're going to need a guy that's going to be able to rotate to that weak side fast and have that length, you know, to get out there and get into the passing lanes. And I could see, you know, you put him in a lineup with a Mitchell Robinson, with a Frank to close. Yeah, I don't think Frank is going to start next year, but a closing lineup, a defensive lineup of a Mitch, a Vassell, a Frank, a RJ out there. I like that. That's a nice athletic lineup out there that can really get after it on the defensive end.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, putting him next to RJ. RJ's a guy who I want to see the ball in his hands more. I want to see him create more. And Vassell's a guy who doesn't need the ball in his hands all that much. So you put him next to RJ, he's going to fit in seamlessly there. And like you said, you put him with Frank and Mitchell Robinson, you got potential to really just have clamps, lockdown defense. And what I love about Vassell, is that not only is he such a smart team defender, like you said, he gets in the passing lanes. He gets his hands on, he serves as a rim protector. He averaged 1 block a game. So many times he's just waiting at the rim, perfectly timing. He's chased down blocks in transition. He's a kid that, you put him with those guys at the end and you don't have to worry about him. He's going to do his job.
What do you think he needs to work on at the next level?
I think that it's going to take a year for, he shot 40% from 3, but it wasn't on like crazy volume. If you look at where his release point is when he shoots the ball, he kind of like puts it way over his head and it's almost like he chucks it. Now it goes in, but I think that when he has to stretch that out a little bit, a couple of feet to that NBA line, I think there's going to be an adjustment period. So that's the first thing. I think, just kind of taking that ball, not putting it so far behind his head, kind of putting it a little bit more in front of him, kind of like a Klay Thompson. Instead of that catapult-esque shot, it'll speed his release up. I think it'll help with the distance of the line. But besides that, he's got to work on his handle. He's not a very confident guy when he's trying to break somebody down off the dribble. So he's really a guy that's going to attack closeouts. Pump fake, 1-2 dribbles, jump shot. Now that's a thing though that he doesn't need to do in 1 year. By the time he gets to the end of his rookie deal, you hope that he can do it a little bit more. But even if he doesn't, he's still going to be such an effective guy playing off of other people.
What do you think about the free throw attempts? I'm looking at the free throw attempts. I see like 3 a game. I compare him. I'm looking at him and Okoro kind of like neck and neck as those, Okoro not necessarily a 3, but definitely a defensive guy, but such a slasher, right? Okoro leaning more towards about 5 free throw attempts a game. Well, what do you think about, Vassell there? A little bit light, or do you think that's just how Florida State was using him?
Well, like I go back to his ball handling. I think it's hard for him to create and get to the rim. He is also a little bit averse to contact. He shies away from it instead of going into it. When you go through my breakdown, I show a couple of examples where he's trying to go up and under instead of, through his man. And if he did that a few more times a game, he would get, that efficiency would be even higher. I have him ahead of Okoro. I love Okoro. I think if you combine them into one guy, it would be the ultimate player because Okoro does have that ball handling. He does have the ability to play make, put him in the pick and roll. But, his jump shot's rough. His jump shot's really rough. And to me, it's going to take a lot of work for him to, have teams guard him out there. And if they're not worried about him as a shooter, I think it's going to, hurt him when he does have the ball in his hands because people are going to know how to cover him. They're going to go under every screen. Yeah. And so that's why I like Vassell more because he's just going to fit anywhere seamlessly. Okoro is going to be a guy that, depending on where he goes, it's going to, I think, that's how it's going to impact his effectiveness. I almost look at him as kind of like an OG Anunoby from Toronto, where, he went to like a veteran team that he can kind of play behind guys. His expectations weren't nearly as high, and he kind of grew into his role, worked on that shot slowly. I'm worried that if Okoro goes too high to a rebuilding team, that they're going to look at him as a guy that kind of needs to produce more than I think he's going to be capable of on the offensive end to get going. I think that's, a dangerous thing when you're drafting potentially in the top 3, and then if there's some bad luck, towards the back of the top 10. But Vassell's a guy that's going to fit in anywhere, man, and that's what I love about him. Yeah,
Okoro with the shooting scares me, especially when you're going to pair him with RJ. The free throw shooting even more abysmal. You can't have the 2 guys shooting in the 60s. I mean, even Vassell's only about 74%. Has improved from his freshman year to his sophomore year, but the free throw shooting definitely needs to improve as well, in my opinion.
100%. And like you said, though, the 70% or 74%, whatever, it is, he's only getting there a couple of times a game. So part of that sample size is low. Maybe if he got there a couple of more times, that would be a little bit more comfortable, get it up to high 70s, maybe low 80s, whereas Okoro definitely has a little bit more of an uphill climb to kind of fix that jumper, where Vassell, he's proven it pretty much everywhere besides the free throw line that he's an above average shooter in every area of the court.
It's it's gonna be interesting, man. Where would you slot him in terms of the draft? I mean, right now the Knicks have a 50% chance of picking between 7th and 8th. I look at him as more of a 7, 8 type of guy. Some of the mock drafts I've seen have him like later on in the teens, but I feel like with Walt pairing with Tibbs on the staff, if they want this kid, they may jump up and get him.
Yeah, I think he's definitely more in that 7, 8 range. If he lasts to like 10, 11, 12, that's like a no-brainer steal to me. I wouldn't be shocked if he hopped into like the top 5. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a guy who gets in the top 3, but if he went 4 or 5, kind of like DeAndre Hunter did last year, I could see that as a plausible thing because his archetype, is so in vogue in that, in the NBA right now. It might be a little bit of a reach up top just because the other guys have, I think, a little bit more potential. I've seen some people say maybe Vassell has a little bit of like Paul George potential, but I think that handle is so underdeveloped at this point that that's really a stretch. So I think that 6, 7, 8 range really is like, that's his sweet spot.
That will be interesting, man. The Knicks fan, obviously we're looking for that star power. We're looking for that guy that could be a star in this team, man. But Vassell, he fills a need, right? He gives you that 3-point shooting, gives you much needed perimeter defense, which the Knicks have always been lacking on. Again, at an 8, I would take him. Yeah. At an 8, I would definitely go for it. I think anything 6 and up, we're looking for a guy that could be an immediate starter. Or a long-term starter. I'm not sure with Vassell, is he just a rotation player or you see him as a long-term starter? I see him
as a long-term starter. Like I said, my main comparison to him is Luol Deng. And, Luol Deng, right from the jump on the Bulls, he came in as a rookie. He was a part of a team that won, I believe, 48 games and took the Bulls to the playoffs his first year. He came in with a couple of other guys, Ben Gordon, Chris Duhon, kind of guys who knew how to play, had some pedigree. So it's not like he did it by himself, but he went on. He was a couple of time All-Star, and I could see that as Vassell's ceiling, where he could make an All-Star game or two at some point in his career. It might not happen until year 6, 7, 8. Where he just so happens to make it in a down year. Maybe he's at like 18, 19 points a game, and has first team all defense kind of year. That's where I think you can kind of get to his potential at his peak. But he's definitely going to be a long-term starter in this league. I look at a guy like Jarrett Culver for Minnesota who went so high because of all this potential, and then you look at he can't shoot the ball, but he's a defender, but he can't shoot. Like Vassell's the opposite of that. He could shoot and he could defend. So he's a guy that you put him on that Minnesota squad, he would have started and played major minutes from the jump and helped them. I don't see any scenario where he fails. I think along with like Onyeka Okongwu, he's probably one of the 2 safest guys in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, listen, his coach Leonard Hamilton compared him to Clay. I mean, hey, if he could reach that ceiling, sign me up. But the coach is always gonna hype his man up. But hey, that's lofty comparisons, man.
That's a lofty comparison. That's a little OD, but you got to talk up your guys, right? That he's got to get those next recruits in.
Absolutely, man. Let's go to the phones. JJ from Brooklyn in the building. JJ wants to talk Vassell. How you feeling, bro?
How you guys doing? How's everything?
Good, man. How you doing, bro?
Good. So Vassell, I remember, I told you about him, probably like a month ago how much I liked him, and like you said, I think it just depends what's too early. I think top 5 is too early. I think that's a little bit of a reach, but before to like 7, 8, 9, I have no problem taking him. He's the main reason, like you guys said, he's a perfect fit next to RJ. He doesn't need the ball. He defends. He could shoot. So to me, that's why it's a perfect fit here. I think it's a great fit if he could snag Vassell in the draft, man.
Yeah, I agree and appreciate the call, JJ. I mean, listen, obviously we want that point guard. We have a lot of needs, right? We need that point guard for sure. But again, a guy like this, we also got to be thinking defense with Tibbs here. Because, you know, his defense is only going to be as good as the horses that you put out there. And like I said, a guy like this that has the length, the athleticism, the awareness, the IQ, man, we just don't have savvy players on both sides of the ball. So I think this guy would fit right in if it's around that, you know, 6 to 8 range for the Knicks.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, from an outsider perspective, who lives and was raised, born in New York, but as a Bulls fan, you know, I just want to see all my friends happy again. You know, the Knicks, you know, the classic Knicks move is like go for the home run guy. But depending where they draft, like you don't always need a home run. There's other ways to get that, you know, to get the RBI, to get that base runner in. Sometimes
it's a base hit.
You know, sometimes you got to get those guys who are just, they're going to get a double, a base hit. And if things go right, maybe they're a triple, you know. And Vassell's one of those guys who, you know, like, there's no boom bust. He is going to hit. And you just wonder how hard he works to get to his peak. But even if he doesn't reach his peak, he's still going to be a good player. So, you know, I think that from an outsider perspective, as long as the Knicks are in that 6, 7, 8 range, you know, he's a guy that they have to consider.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP from Knicks Fan TV checking in here. Special guest, Corey Taluba from the Hardwood Herald. Salute to everybody in the chat. Phone lines up, 657-383-1509. Definitely want to shout out who's in here. Robert Parrots, what's going on? We got Chance, the Admiral Simmons in here. Appreciate Chance. Ernesto Duverge checking in from Miami. Shout out Haymaker737. If you guys are new in the chat, leave a hashtag new, and we will shout you guys out. JJ Hands TV, salute to you. Welcome to the chat. We got my guy CP the Artist in here as well. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Corey, man, Bulls fan from New York. You slipped that one in on us, man. It's all good, man, because I appreciate your insights anyway. From a Bulls fan perspective, you saw Tibbs in his heyday. Yep. What did you think about the move?
I thought it was the perfect move, man. I completely understand people that wanted Kenny Atkinson. You know, that he would have been a great choice too. But for me, you know, Tibbs is like the embodiment of like that New York gritty dude. He's married to the game. He doesn't. You know, he's literally not married to anybody else but basketball, and he lives, breathes it. No one's gonna work harder than him, and he's gonna get every inch of potential out of the team. Now the Knicks just have to figure out their roster, because if the team's potential isn't that high, Tibbs could get everything out of it, but there's a ceiling. So they just got to work on figuring out the roster, and that's going to be, you know, on Leon and Wes to figure out. And hopefully, you know, like I said, I want to see my friends happy. Hopefully they figure it out and give Tibbs guys that, you know, are going to work for him. And he gets a lot of slack for his experience in Minnesota, but let's be honest, the Timberwolves hadn't made the playoffs in what, like 13 years?
I'm saying years? You got to give credit for turning that around, man. It's Minnesota we're talking about. Look, here, man.
Just because it didn't end up in a championship and you know, things went south with Jimmy, like, he still got them further than anybody had gotten them since Kevin Garnett.
Oh, wow, it's true.
So to say that he failed in Minnesota, I don't necessarily think is fair. Could he have done some things different? Of course. And he's a guy that, like I said, he studies so much. I don't think he's going to have so much pride inside of him that he's not going to work on, you know, his weaknesses. So for me, I thought it was just an absolute home run, and I'm so happy for him that he made it to a place like this. And if he could turn this team around, even just get them going in the right direction, and it doesn't have to happen overnight. You know, it doesn't have to be next year the Knicks are in the playoffs. Any just signs of improvement, I think, are going to be is going to be great for the city.
It's going to be a positive. And as you said, man, I can't see a guy like this not learning from his mistakes. He's one of the best coaching minds in the sport. Learned from the best. Came under the Van Gundy coaching tree. You know, Tibbs is going to be able to set the foundation. And I think that's what this team needs. We need stability. We need a foundation. We need discipline. We need an identity. We just haven't had it, man. Mm-hmm. We just have not had that identity that New York basketball, you know, needs to have. So my thing is, like you said, the roster. Number one, Who are they going to bring in here to help improve this team, but also the type of veterans that they bring in here, because is he going to be leaning more towards a veteran laden team and playing those vets to kind of ease the growing pains a little bit? You know what I'm saying? Because it's tough, man. This is going to be a tough place. I know he knows how to handle it here. And that's another reason why I like the hire. But, is he going to use the veterans as a crutch to kind of, keep them in good graces if they win with that team?
Yeah, I mean, look, he does have a tendency to lean on vets. That's no secret, right? But to say that he doesn't develop guys is not fair at all, because, at least with the Bulls, Luol Deng blew up under him. Joakim Noah blew up under him. Jimmy Butler blew up under him. Jimmy Butler is a guy who played 2 minutes his rookie year, and all of a sudden now he's, an all-NBA guy. He develops guys. It might be not as ideal as, the fan of whatever team he's coaching wants it to be, but he's going to develop guys. He's going to teach them how to play the right way. And, you look at Cat and Wiggins and you say, like, he didn't get the most out of them. But, it's a two-way street. These guys got to want that grind as much as he does. And look, I don't know what's in Wiggins' heart. I don't know what's in Cat's heart, but I've seen Joakim Noah grind on the defensive end. I know what it's like to see guys play hard every possession and just give their heart and soul. And I know that Noah's not the most popular guy in New York.
No.
But his Bulls tenure was legit. And those guys, they didn't give that heart that, whatever city you're playing in deserves. And look, Cat is a phenomenal player. One of the best offensive big men of all time, right? But, that success is a two-way street. And when you got Jimmy Butler coming into practice and saying, you guys don't work hard enough, you don't want it like I do, and he's a guy that knows what it takes. He's seen guys. He played with Derrick Rose when Derrick Rose was, still Derrick Rose. He knows what that superstardom is and what it takes to get there, and he knows what cutting off his internet for a summer is, and just grinding his ass off until, he develops new skills. And, he saw that potential in those guys, like I think Tibbs did, and they both wanted more. And, those guys got to give it, and they got to learn how to get to that point that Tibbs wants them to get to. But, as long as New York brings in guys like that, it's going to be a good situation. And I think that RJ has that same mentality in him.
I think RJ has that work ethic, that grit. I think him and Tibbs are going to be a great pairing. I think Tibbs is going to get the best out of him. On the Butler situation, listen, I think it was unfortunate. Tibbs, obviously, he probably regrets making that LaVine trade. Who repped him, even though he traded him, so Zach LaVine had a lot of respect for Tibbs, but I think that was the death knell for Tibbs, the whole Jimmy Butler outburst, and, I thought Minnesota's ownership probably didn't like how he handled it as a president of basketball operations, probably wasn't feeling how he handled both roles and how he put that team together. So, yes. I mean, I think you put him in a situation where he doesn't have to wear that hat. I think he will have a lot of say in it, as Leon Rose is very inexperienced. I think Tibbs will still, have his hand in the roster heavily. But I think not having that ego like a Butler, even though they got along, not having that ego in a Butler, and kind of being able to start from scratch, so to speak, with a bunch of young kids, and to be able to impart your identity, I think we'll be all right with Tibbs.
Yeah, 100% agreed, man. I'm a big fan of the move.
Absolutely. Let's go back to the phones. DJ Shuttle from New York City on the line. DJ Shuttle, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? A lot of talk on Vassell tonight. Knox is obviously not dependable or reliable yet, so I think small forward should definitely be a position we're looking at. So we're talking about Vassell, but I'm also seeing Denny as the possible early pick who could fall to that 6, 7, 8 range. So my question, guys, we're looking at Denny, we're looking at Vassell, and our pick is up. Who we talking about?
Oof. Oof. This is a good question, man.
I'm a Denny guy.
Yeah.
I'm a Denny guy. I'm a believer in him. So I would personally, if that, even if the Knicks, climbed up the draft board, Denny's a guy I consider, with the pick if they move up into the draft. Definitely Denny. He's just got a little bit more of that playmaking. You see how hard he worked. He's improved his shooting when the Israeli league came back. He came out guns blazing. He looked confident shooting it, didn't hesitate. His body has clearly developed a little bit. And to me, the most underrated thing about him is how smart he is defensively as well. He's not a guy that is going to be able to go one-on-one like a Devin Vassell is, just check a guy, be like, go get me a stop. But he's going to compete. He might get you a stop. And then as a team defender, though, he's not going to let you down. He talks everything through. He's in the right spots. So, and that's really where value is in the NBA. Offense is so good in the NBA that it's hard to stop guys one-on-one.
Right.
But if you're a good team defender and you're not breaking that link in the chain, that's where the real value comes from. And Denny does have that ability. Again, he's not the defender as a team defender or as a one-on-one defender that Vassell is, but he's got a lot more creativity in his bag offensively. Yeah. And if you put RJ and Denny on the floor together, both guys that can kind of handle the rock a little bit, run pick and roll, play off each other, get out in transition, push the pace. I love that pairing. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think playmaking-wise, Denny is definitely far and away a better playmaker than Vassell at this current moment. A guy that could initiate the break off a rebound, push it, you know what I mean, score. He has that size. He can get in the basket, score. He's not afraid to bang, and as a playmaker, I like it. He's improving on his three-point shot. I watched a couple of games at Maccabi Tel Aviv. I just saw the championship game. Didn't have a great game, but Vassell could be a safer pick, though. I think Denny is definitely a riskier pick. I would probably still go Denny just because he can be a better facilitator and a more capable three-point shooter eventually. As you said, his defense can come along. His team defense can definitely get there. Maybe not the best one-on-one defender as a Vassell, but I think overall game, I have to give the edge to Denny, though.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to see him get that left hand going because, he's a lot like Killian Hayes in this draft. Killian Hayes is a lefty. He doesn't use his right hand. Denny's a righty. He doesn't really use his left hand. So I do need to see him work on that a little bit more, but I have no doubt that he's a hard worker because, it's noticeable that he worked on his shooting during the quarantine period. So he's another guy that he's a winner. He won at the U20s. He won in the Israeli league. He's a guy who played professionally in the Euro League for a couple of years already. With him, my only concern, especially in a city like New York, is I don't want people on talk radio to see a European kid and think he's going to be the next Luka Doncic.
Spotlight is going to be on. I had a scout on earlier this year who didn't compare his game to Luka, but his overall awareness. Just his feel for the game. He compared to a Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. He has an awareness and an understanding of the game that's definitely up there. I think Luka's another level, but Luka's just more skilled. He's a better shooter. He is a better ball handler, and because he's a better ball handler, he can make passes and reads that Denny can't necessarily always make because he's so right-hand dominant. Yeah. But you do see that Luka come through sometimes, like when Denny's in transition or he does get to his right hand off a pick and roll. He whips that ball to the weak side corner. He makes advanced reads, and he does have that Luka to him, and that's why I'm concerned that people are going to compare him to Luka because Luka's a guy that in his second year at 21 years old just put up 30, 10, and 10.
Facts.
You can't compare anybody to him.
He's a one-of-a-kind player, man. He's definitely a one-of-a-kind player. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Let's see what people in the chat think. New Yorker says, I think Denny wins. He's taking Denny over Vassell. Let's see who else. Pranav says Denny has a high IQ. Definitely. Let's see. Raw Hebrew Remnant says Denny would not even start on the Knicks. I think he would. And the last caller mentioned Kevin Knox. Kev is in an interesting role right now. He's in an interesting predicament because Depending on where the Knicks go in the draft, if they go with Denny, if they go with Vassell or Coro, Sadiq Bey, depending on where they are. And with the bevy of cash that they have to spend in free agency, where we still need perimeter shooting, and you have guys on the market like a Bertans, like a Gallo, who's maybe more of a 4 at this stage in the game. But Kev's role, who himself is not really set at the 3 or the 4, Kev's role could be impacted again by this offseason. So Kevin Knox really has to step his game up, because I don't know, Tom Thibodeau is going to wait around for him, man.
Yeah, for sure. I actually still believe in Knox a little bit. He clearly has a skill set and a skeleton of a skill set that you could see a good player in. It's just going to come down to knocking down shots, and hopefully, with all
those threes, man.
Hopefully, with all this time off, that's an area of his game that he's just in the gym grinding away, because it looks pretty. It looks good when it goes up. It's just got to go in, and then he might play a little bit of 4 too, right? And he's got a frame, a body, and the athleticism that he should be a good defender. So, maybe Thibodeau comes in and gets the most out of him and turns him into a guy that can defend 3s and 4s, get out in transition, knock down open shots, take away some of the bad habits that he has, clean him up, and turn him into a productive player that makes you think, like, this is a guy that was the right pick where we took him.
I hope so, man. Like I said, I got hope for him too. A lot of the Michael Porter Jr. viewers tonight might think differently after his 30+ point outing, but with Kev, like you said, I think it's down to him hitting those 3-point shots, and definitely if he's going to stay on the court, he's got to defend well. And I think closer to the end of this season, I saw a better effort from him, better overall awareness. Kev a lot of times would get caught like missing assignments, later in rotations, just overall just looking lost in space. I think he improved on that a little bit to close out the season, and so I want to see him pick it up. But his 3-point shooting definitely has to be more consistent. I like his shot. I like his mechanics. He's just got to knock it down and get some confidence, man.
For sure. And look, not every young player is on the same timeline when it comes to their development. He was a young rookie when he came in. He was a young kid in the draft, right? He's going to be going into his 3rd year. Like, 3rd year, a lot of times players make leaps, whether it's leap from a good player to a great player, or a young guy who didn't have it figured out to a guy who figures it out. So maybe this is the year for him as he gets a little bit older and he starts understanding. He's watching more film. He knows what it's like to be a pro. Maybe this is the year for him. I guess only time will tell. But I still hold out hope for him. I think he's a kid with a lot of potential that gets a little bit underrated in the league as far as guys in his situation.
I agree, man. Definitely agree. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP from Knicks Fan TV checking in. I got my guy Corey Taluba, the Hardwood Herald. Check him out on YouTube. Check him out on Twitter. Draft breakdowns. Who we got in here? Let's see if we got anybody on the phones. My guy Will from LI in the building. Will wants to talk about Vassell. Will, how you feeling, man?
Hey, what's going on, CP? How you doing today, Corey?
Good, bro. What's going on?
What's good, man?
Good. Listen, man, let me just get right into my points, man. I just want to ask you guys a question first, and then I'll be able to get into my points, because I don't really know that much about Devin Vassell. Position would you say that he played? The 2, the 3, or is he kind of like a tweener?
Where would you slide him, Corey? The 2 or the 3?
I have him as a 3. Yeah, I think
okay.
I think he's pretty obviously a 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. This is what I feel like, man. When it comes to this draft, when it comes to our needs, I feel like we need a lot of things, right? I think we definitely need 1, the point guard, and that 2, 3, and then a stretch 4, right? I think RJ is a solid 3. In this draft, for me, it's point guard or bust, bro. I'm sorry, I hate to be those people. And Devin Vassell seems like a great guy. That would be great next year. Like, once we have a stable point guard that's not going to be changing every single season. But for me, I need a point guard, man. Like, for me, I feel like Devin Vassell sounds like a great player. But if we don't get that point guard with star potential this year, I feel like we would have to tank again next year to possibly get a star potential.
Hey, and that wouldn't be a bad draft to do that, right? According to the experts, that would not be a bad draft. But Will, let me ask you something. I'm talking about 6 to 8 for this guy, right? We're not talking about top 3 or anything like that. Well, let's say 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Let's say 8 comes up, right? Let's say 8 comes up. LaMelo's gone.
Okay.
Depending on, I don't know, some people have Halliburton going as high as 5, but let's say LaMelo's the one off the board, and you have a Halliburton, you have Cole Anthony, you have Killian Hayes, and then you have a Denny Vassell. Where are you going? You going Killian?
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm going Killian. For me, it's Killian Hayes. I mean, it's LaMelo, of course, number 1. And Killian Hayes, I'm definitely like my dude from Florida, no Halliburton. But I feel like that point, it really could be a toss-up between a Cole Anthony or just trading back and getting Carol Lewis. I don't think I would have an issue with that either. But at this point, I need a point guard that when I'm like 10 years old, like 10 years from now, I'm 35, got my kids or whatever, I can be like, yeah, we got our pillows. We had a Mitch, we had an RJ, and then we had this point guard. For me, Devin Vassell feels like a great player, and I would love to have the luxury of drafting him in this draft, but we don't have that luxury, bro. We don't. Like, either you trade back and get it's a point guard for me.
Yeah.
Like, I need a point guard. That's just my opinion on it. I'm going to let you guys partner on that, but for me, it's a point guard. So
appreciate it, bro. Listen, man.
It is what it is.
I'm all in, man. Listen, we need a point guard in the worst way. I understand that wholeheartedly. I'm just trying to think of a player that is a prototypical Tibbs type of player, right? And a safer pick than some of these other guys that may be on the board. Halliburton, to me, as a 3-and-D guard, I'm not so sure he's the type of point guard that Thibodeau likes in his system, because he's not a guy that's going to attack the paint as some of these other guys. And that's what Thibodeau wants to get into the paint, draw in the defense, and create those open 3-point shots. He wants a guy that can get into the paint and finish, high efficiency shots as well. Halliburton, like I said, a great catch and shoot 3-point shooter, excellent point guard, but is he that dynamic point guard that Thibodeau's looking for? I'm not so sure.
No, he's not. He's not. I love Halliburton's game. Like, he's a good player, and I think any coach is going to be like, this is a guy I love coaching, and he's going to play a ton of minutes. But he's a guy that, like, let's say Golden State fell back out of that 1 spot and landed in, like, the 5 spot or whatever, like, or they traded back to the 7 spot, whatever the case is. Like, Golden State's a team that could take a guy like Halliburton, because to me, Halliburton's not a lead ball handler.
Right.
He's a secondary creator who can run some pick and roll because he's a very good passer. Right. He'll get out, play in transition, and as a shooter, he's much better in catch and shoot situations. So if he could play off of Stephen Curry, and then if Steph is on the bench, you could put him at point, let him run with Clay. I think Halliburton's perfect for a team like Golden State, who's ready to actually play meaningful minutes. But for a Knicks team, I don't like it. I don't really like him for many of the rebuilding teams early for that reason. As far as a Tibbs guy, I actually love Kira Lewis Jr.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like a top of my draft board or anything like that, but he's like my favorite player to watch in the draft. Mm-hmm. And if you look at, the kind of guards that Tibbs has had a lot of success with, you look at Nate Robinson, John Lucas III, DJ Augustine. Mm-hmm. Kira Lewis kind of plays like those dudes a little bit.
Zone. First time
blazing speed is going to, with the extra spacing the NBA gives him, he's going to be a nightmare. He's got that kind of Kobe White, De'Aaron Fox type speed. Putting him out in transition, getting him running with Mitchell Robinson, with RJ Barrett, that's like, to me, that would be beautiful to watch.
What we need.
And he's a guy that could shoot it.
Yeah.
He knocks shots down not only on catch and shoots, but off the bounce. And I think that he's an underrated playmaker for the fact that, he's a young kid. He's a sophomore, but he's younger than Cole Anthony is. You know, like, so he's a young kid who's still learning the game, developing, coming into his body himself. I think you put him in pick and rolls, he's gonna eventually be toying with defenders. I think that he's also a guy that is going to start becoming more and more a part of that conversation for, you know, that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 range himself, especially if the NBA figures out a way to do a combine and teams get a look at him, you know, in person and see what kind of physical gifts that he has.
Yeah. Could go up. And, you know, there's certainly the extended playing time certainly helped a guy like a Denny. I'm wondering if they do, like you said, if they do implement a combine, how some of these guys' stocks kind of change. And, you know, Lewis, from some of the mock drafts I've seen, is within the teens range. I'm just curious to see if Leon pulls that trigger, whether it's to trade up, you know, to go get a LaMelo, or to trade down and get more value in a draft that many consider to be not that talented. I'm just curious to see what type of chess moves he would make in that capacity.
Yeah, and you know, it's new to him, right? Nobody kind of knows how he's going to run a team, so you know, that's anybody's guess, and I'm assuming that he's, you know, playing everything close to the chest. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what kind of direction they go when, you know, we do actually get to the draft lottery and you know, positioning actually becomes solidified.
Now, looking later on into the draft, they got the 27th pick later on in the first round. That could change depending on where the Clippers pick. But they also have the 38th pick in the second round. Now, a guy that you were telling me that you like was a Cassius Winston out of Michigan State. What do you like about him?
Oh, man, I love watching this kid play, too. One, he is just like an incredible leader. He is a guy that, to me, he embodies, like, when you think of like an old school New York point guard, kind of that like shifty, runs a pick and roll, knocks down shots. You can see him playing on the playground, but also he gets on a court and he's you know, putting dudes on skates. And he just makes guys better, man. You know, he's going to be a winner. He's going to be a guy that, because he's an older player in the draft, that gets overlooked. You know, I've talked to some people. They have him on the fringe. He might be a first rounder. He could be a second rounder. But he's a guy that is going to be in the NBA for, you know, 15 years. Just based off the fact that he just plays the game and knows the game the right way. And I love how much, you know, he kind of resembles a Chris Paul or Kyle Lowry in the pick and roll. How he gets guys to go into the screen before the screen comes. He's so shifty, so smart, so intelligent. He would make Mitchell Robinson so much better. Or I don't know if so much better, because he just broke Wilt's record, but he would continue on that trajectory, get him a crazy amount of lobs, just manipulates everything. His game is made for the NBA. Played for, you know, one of the best college coaches of all time, winning program, winning kid, and I love him if he's available at pick 27 for the Knicks.
A winner, like you said, man. Tom Izzo, Michigan State, and a senior. You know, a guy that can probably come in and contribute right away. You know, a lot of these kids, they just get younger and younger by the year, man. And then with less playing time, no March Madness, no conference tournaments, very limited organized team activities between now and the draft. And then you're talking about starting the season later, not as much training camp. A lot of these kids are going to be behind the 8 ball, I think, you know, coming into it. So, you know, he could be a safe pick, a safe value pick down in that second round if the Knicks don't get their point guard at, you know, in the lottery.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And like you said, I think that the fact that he is a senior benefits him when it comes to some of these younger kids who, you know, haven't played in a long time. Like, teams are going to know what they got in Cassius Winston. You know, what you see is what you get. He's got a ton of tape on him. So, yeah, I think that's going to benefit him. And if the Knicks don't go point guard at the top, I think he's a good option. And he's not the only good option as far as point guard goes in this draft. You know, in the later parts of the draft, you have a Leandro Balmero, you have a Grant Riller, Trey Jones from Duke. You know, you got guys that are older or have a lot of experience in you know, pro leagues that can come in. And like you said, Thibodeau, especially at this part of the draft, you know, the first part of the draft, take the flyer on a guy who has, you know, that superstar potential.
High ceiling, yeah.
You know, at this part of the draft, if you're looking for a guy that's going to play for a Tom Thibodeau, you might need that guy who has a little bit more experience. You know, I don't know if Thibodeau is going to love playing an RJ Hampton, You know what I mean? Like, especially when you got guys like Dennis Smith Jr. and Frank and, all these other guys at that position that needs developing. You want a guy who kind of has a baseline already if you want to see him on the floor next year.
True indeed, man. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Salute to everybody in the chat. We got 734 watching on YouTube. Salute to everybody watching on Facebook. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys as usual. We're going to get to the phones in a second, but I want to salute the super chats. Salute to Michael Parker, sends a $5 super chat. Robert Parrish says, I'm good with Vassell and Kira 7 through 9. Yet Okongu or Obi if no Melo or Hayes. Okay. All right. Gartrell Davis says, if the Knicks don't get a point guard with the first pick, who should be available with the Clippers pick and or second round pick? So I think we kind of touched on that with Winston. 27 would be too low for Kira. He'd be long gone by then. But I think certainly at 38, Winston could definitely be there. Alan Berman sends a super chat. He says, the real test for Tibbs is going to be how he handles LeVar and all three Ball brothers. This is happening.
What does LeVar say? He speaks it into existence.
Speaks it into existence, man. Oh, my God. Oh, man. I don't know if I can handle that, man. JJ Hands TV says, what about Denny at the point? I don't know if they would run Denny full-time at the point.
Nah, you can't run Denny at the point full time. Like I said, he's not Luka. Luka.
Yeah. Park City Dion, what's good, Dion? He says, if the Knicks fall to 7-9 and LaMelo and Killian are gone, would you trade that pick and Randall with nothing else for LaVine? You're a Chicago fan, Corey. You're not taking that.
I'm not doing that.
You're not doing that.
No.
Not doing that.
I don't know. Just like the Knicks, the Bulls have new management, so I don't know how they feel about LaVine or, a guy like Hayes or whoever's at that spot.
Yeah.
So who knows if they will. Like you, I don't know what my management is, what their style is. I mean, I guess, at least for the Bulls, they have kind of, the Denver resume to go off of for Karnisovas. But, I think they like what they have with LaVine. I understand the rumors.
Yeah.
And why he's a coveted player. And Tibbs does like having guys who have played for him. He spoke very highly of Tibbs. And why wouldn't he? He's playing for currently the worst coach in the NBA. So Tom Thibodeau to him would be, I couldn't even imagine how happy that would make him to play for a competent NBA head coach again. And I really don't like talking down on NBA coaches because for the most part, they've all forgotten more yesterday about basketball than any of us ever could know. But there's a relationship side to the game, and my guy in Chicago don't got it. So I understand if the Bulls keep him, which there are some rumors that LaVine would want a trade possibly.
It's interesting, man, and let's segue to this LaVine talk because obviously you're a Chicago fan. You've seen LaVine every night.
Yep.
I mean, number one, as you said, you have new regime, right? And,
yep.
You guys have been going through this, Gar Pax fight. You guys had the billboards up and everything and get rid of the old regime. I can't see this new regime coming in and just giving this guy away for a pick and a Randall. First off, I don't think Randall even fits the Bulls with marketing and Wendell Carter already there. But to me, with LaVine coming off of an all-star caliber season, 2 years left on his deal, no leverage. I think they're going to want a king's ransom for him. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so too. And also, he's on like a really good deal for the production that he gives. He's at $19.5 million for the next 2 years, which as a guy who's he's putting up 26 points a game on high efficiency. Guys do not get paid under $20 million who are putting up those kind of numbers. So yeah, Zach LaVine, he has his flaws. He's not perfect, right? He's not a playmaker in the way that James Harden is, or even a guy like Devin Booker has developed into. But, those are guys that make $30 million a year. That extra money in a time where we don't know what the salary cap is going to be like. Like the way that this whole situation this year has affected the NBA, losing games, losing all of the revenue from fans coming to the games. The bubble and everything is nice. I'm sure they're recouping some money from it, but they're going to have lost a lot of money. So who knows what the salary cap actually looks like? And with a guy who was on a deal that is pretty fair. I can't see the, new management in Chicago being eager to get rid of LaVine.
No.
Is he a guy that's untradeable? Of course not. There's very few of those guys in this league. But I don't think they're eager to get rid of him.
I can't see it, man. That would not be the best way to ingratiate themselves with the fan base by giving away their best player for nothing. But what do you think about the Knox and LaVine as an empty calories, empty stats type of guy from somebody like you who's seen him play this year?
I'm a LaVine truther. He's a guy who's gotten better every year. He works on his weaknesses. Incredibly hard worker, dedicated. He's just miscast in a role that isn't playing to his strengths. He's not a guy that's a lead playmaker. And the Bulls don't have another guy to take that part of his game and that monkey off of his back. So he's forced into that role where he's got to do a little bit too much. And he has developed a little bit as a playmaker, just not enough that you want the ball in his hands all that much. You want him to be a scorer. He's a bucket. He can get to...
That's his job.
He can get to the hole whenever he wants. He gets to the free throw line. He can stroke it from deep range, and he's at 37, 38% off the bounce. Covered, hand in his face. Doesn't matter. He can get to it in the mid-range. And that's what he does. Defensively, underrated one-on-one. He competes one-on-one. But, he does lose focus as a team defender off ball. And that's a knock on him, right? And like we said before, you could be a good one-on-one defender, but if you don't have that everybody connected team defense mindset, then those knocks are going to be fair on you. So that's fair, and I get that, but I think that, he's looked at as this empty calorie guy because the wins haven't come yet, but he hasn't been in ideal situations. He went into Minnesota with that team, got traded when Thibodeau came. He just as easily could have been a guy who went to the playoffs with Jimmy, played off of him if Minnesota had put Wiggins in the deal instead. And then he went to Chicago, coming off an injury, and now has had 2 years where he's gotten better each year. And, the Bulls just have underperformed, but I don't think it's his fault. I think it's, a lot to do with how the player development on the, from the staff just hasn't kind of gotten the best out of everybody. Like, Lauri Markkanen went backwards this year. He's a guy that averaged 19 and 10 in his second year in the league, and all of a sudden he goes backwards. Wendell Carter's a guy who showed off his rookie year that he could pass the ball, run dribble handoffs, even stretch the floor out, and he's not allowed to play make or shoot threes this year. I mean, Thad Young, a veteran who's been a winner in a ton of situations, is stuck in the corner when he's a guy that historically has been successful close to the basket. I mean, it was just like, how are you going to succeed when you're trying to fit all of these square pegs into a round hole?
Mm-hmm. And the way you characterize LaVine as kind of playing above his role is kind of how I saw the Knicks with Randall. Kind of having to be that guy. And he's just not that type of playmaker that's going to make the team better. With LaVine, nasty numbers, man. 25 points per game. He's a bucket, as you said. I like these stats. Some of these that jumped out at me. 38% on threes on 8 attempts. So the volume was definitely there. 30% usage rate is high, but 5th in effective field goal percentage among the 13 players with a 30% usage rate or higher. That put him in the 80th percentile. But the playmaking stats in the clutch, man, 33% field goal percentage, 4 total assists in the clutch stat this season, man. And it's just, Knicks make a trade for a guy like that. Again, I'm always thinking about, RJ Barrett in mind, because listen, the Knicks spent the number 3 pick on this kid. This is not just a second round pick that you got lucky on like a Mitch. Like, you have to be invested in RJ's success, and you bring a LaVine in here, and I think it's RJ playing that Thad Young role, standing in the corner, and I just don't think that's the best way to accentuate on his strengths. You know what I mean? By bringing in a high usage guy like LaVine in here, talented, excellent scorer. But I just don't see that fit here.
No, and if you're a team that's going to trade for LaVine, like the other, one of the other teams was Brooklyn that's interested in him, according to Ian Begley, that makes a little bit more sense, right? Because he's a guy that'll play off Kyrie, play off Kevin Durant, and be a guy that all you need is for him to go get buckets. And playing off those two guys, he'll be impossible to guard as a third option. That makes sense to me. Playing with RJ Barrett, who, like you said, needs those developmental reps, needs to have the organization put that work into him just like he's putting work in for the organization. And their games just, there's a little bit of overlap, and defensively, it's like, it just doesn't make much sense. If you had Zach LaVine at the 2 and you put Vassell next to him, that would make a little bit of sense. I'm not seeing it with LaVine and RJ. To me, like I said, if you're a Brooklyn, go get Zach LaVine. If you are a Denver Nuggets,
don't do it.
Go get Zach LaVine. Get him as like the final piece,
right? Not
as the building block to the piece.
Yeah, like you said, a Nets, a Lakers, a Denver, but one of those rebuilding teams is just going to be similar to what you already have.
Exactly.
It's going to be similar to what you already have. But interesting debate nevertheless. And for a guy that spoke so highly of Tibbs, interesting to see if Tibbs, wants to return the favor and bounce back from that Jimmy Butler trade, which ended up costing him his job. So, salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Couple more calls before we wrap. Let's go to Jersey. Eddie wants to talk Vassell and Denny. Eddie, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for taking my call.
What's going on, bro?
The only issue I have with Denny, he kind of feels more like a one-handed bandit. He's always going right. He's hard right every time. He did improve his shot a little bit, but I'm just not really sure about him in the NBA if he actually translates. And then also sometimes, a lot of times with the NBA, like a lot of the young kids with the NBA, it's like the game is like so fast for them. Like when they're trying to play defense, they just like look really lost. So one thing that was really interesting, I was watching a game, one of the NBA games a few days ago, and Kyle O'Quinn, I can't remember who he plays for.
Philly,
but it's a playoff team he's playing for now.
Kyle O'Quinn plays for Philly, plays for the 76ers.
Yeah, I mean, he was, he's a great player. I liked him when he was here, but watching him on a playoff team, I kind of realized, like, he actually should be getting only garbage minutes, because when he was out there on the floor, he looked extremely lost. It looked like he couldn't even keep up amongst, bench players. So it's so I think the Knicks really should be careful and just be careful who they draft, right, and make sure they're getting players that are sure, that are going to be kind of like a sure thing, that can keep up with the game, that know how to play the game, that are smart enough. And so that's why I'm not sure about Denny, because he just every time I like all his highlights I see, he just like, if he's not taking a shot, he's going hard right, like every time. Even the layups are with his right hand. So that's the only issue with him. With the guy Vassell, he seems pretty interesting. The guy you guys were talking about, so he seems really interesting. He can shoot. His handle seems okay. I mean, I've seen him actually go with both hands into the lane. So yeah. But one thing I am confident, like at least with this team they have now, with like Thibodeau, combination of Thibodeau, Perry, and the guy from Utah, I definitely think they'll be able to get the draft right. So, I'm not really too worried this year about it. And then the other thing I just want to say, one last thing I want to say, I think we really overhype the point guard situation. Look, you need a good point guard. Don't get me wrong. You need a serviceable point guard. But you don't need a superstar point guard. You don't need a Chris Paul or, if we had a Chris Paul, I'd be great. I'll be elated, right? But you don't need a Chris Paul to to make the playoffs in this league, or even to be competitive and give people something to watch, right? So I just think sometimes, so I'm not a Melo or Buff kind of dude. If we don't get Melo, it's not the end of the world. We just kind of have to stand back with what we're doing and just keep moving forward. That's all I got to say.
Appreciate the call, Eddie. All right, so Eddie's looking for a more safer pick in the draft. I agree with you. They got to hit on this one. especially Perry, man. You know, Perry with the Knox pick and how MPJ's looking, how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's looking. You know, not a good look for his record. So hopefully with Will Perrin coming in, some of these new advanced scouts that they have here, we gotta get this draft right. They definitely got to get this draft right. On the Chris Paul thing, listen, obviously it's not Chris Paul or bust necessarily with me. I just look at him as a player. Look at his impact on OKC. I mean, that's all you have to look at right there. I look at him as a guy that can help us get on the right track to learning how to win and be a true leader on this team. Now, contract is heavy. He's getting up there in age. You know, his durability was probably an aberration this year. Probably got lucky in that regard. We'll see how it goes past that. But again, I just see him as somebody that could help really set the table for this team, and that's the type of guy the type of veteran that the Knicks need. I wasn't feeling Peyton's contributions. I think Peyton is a solid backup, and that's all he's ever been, and that's fine. You know, that's fine. Peyton knows his role, and he can play it well, but just not as a starting point guard for this team.
Yeah, you said it, man. You said it. What do you think about Fred VanVleet for the Knicks?
Yo, Fred VanVleet, man. 36 points tonight for Fred VanVleet in the restart. 7 for 12 from downtown. 12 for 12 free throws. On my last show, I had him as in my top 5 free agents to pursue. Top 5 realistic free agents. You know, I didn't put in Ingram. I didn't put in AD or anybody like that. Realistic. Obviously, pending what they do in the draft.
Right.
But if they don't get that guard in the draft and they're averse to trading for CP3, if it's a reasonable deal, you know, I'm not creeping up on 20 for VanVleet. If it's around the 15 for a couple years, you know, a guy that can defend well, shoot the three, dribble penetration, has to finish a little bit better, but has shown the propensity to play big in big spots. It's a gamble, but I think, again, at the right price, I think I would entertain it. I think the Knicks fan is leery of it because we've been down this road. I think some people see him as a guy that won't perform here on this big stage, you know, might crumble. You know, some people see that Toronto situation as like tailor-made for him. Mm-hmm. And I don't really see him leaving Toronto, but what do you think?
Yeah, I doubt that he leaves Toronto as well, but I guess, you know, if somebody's dropping the bag, you got to take it, right? There's only so many times you can get paid. I don't think he would crumble in New York. I mean, you saw how he performed on the biggest stage in the NBA Finals. So I think he has the mentality, and especially because, you know, he's one of those guys that was overlooked his whole life. And he's got that underdog, that grit, that hard work, that mentality that I think New Yorkers, you know, appreciate so much. So for me, at the right price, like you said, and the right price might be available this year based on, like we said, the uncertainty with what the cap's going to look like going forward. So maybe he's an option that is in that 15, 16, maybe $17 million range. I mean, I don't know how many people are bidding on him. But
I figure Detroit's going to be looking for a point, probably in the draft.
Yep.
I don't know what you guys think about your current situation.
It's not great, but I think that the plan is probably to save cap space for 2021. So I don't know if they would splurge on a guy like VanVleet in Chicago this offseason.
I think VanVleet would be a great off-ball guard to play alongside RJ. I think that's the type of guy that you want. I think he's that Thibodeau type of point guard. Gritty, man, definitely has that dog in him. Like I said, he's in my top 5. Just got to see how the draft and you know, if how the trade market looks, if they still want to take that CP3 deal. But I just can't see the Raptors, you know, with Lowry getting up there in age, still balling, but getting up there in age. I can't see them letting VanVleet go. But you never know with Ujiri, man. And with the Raptors development, they might have a diamond in the rough down in the G League or something that's ready to come up and be an all-star. So who knows?
For real.
Who knows? And in that note, man, on the restart, what have you liked so far in this opening weekend?
Man, I kind of like everything about it, man. I like waking up and knowing there's going to be games on early afternoon. Yeah,
me too.
Just knowing that you could watch games all day, all night. I I like seeing that all of the players are kind of hitting their marks right away. Like, there's not a lot of rust to shake off. I loved the Portland Celtics game.
Dope.
That was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm so happy that Nurkic looks like he's recovered from that injury.
Nurkic has been looking good, man.
Yeah, and Dame's like, he's probably my favorite player in the league to watch. I love everything about him, his mentality. I love the fact that he could spit. I like Dame's my guy.
Yeah.
And then, the young Celtics, like Jaylen Brown, having a huge fourth in seeing his development. And, a little piece of me as a guy who, came up college basketball watching the Big East. I'm always rooting for Kemba.
Always rooting for Kemba. Same here, bro. Same
here. I love everything I've seen so far. And the Nuggets are, they're my sleeper for this weird situation that all the teams are in. I mean, Jokic is so much fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I compared him earlier in the year to like playing with Steve Nash, which seems weird because he's a center and Nash the point guard, but they're both odd-looking dudes who make players better. I love watching weird guys like that. So there's a lot to like, and I love how it looks. It looks like a 2K stream.
Yeah, it looks good. The camera angle, they brought back that camera angle from the 2000 All-Star game with the camera kind of running along the end line. I love that. Like you said, look like a lot of these players haven't skipped a beat. The chemistry looks there. The Boston-Portland game was great. I mean, anytime you see CJ and Dame cooking at the same time, and that was just great. They were down double digits, came back. But as you said, man, Jaylen Brown has really been stepping his game up. Him and Tatum. I had Boston as my sleeper, but I'm not so sure with Kemba's knee. I'm not so sure. I think because I felt like this was his stage. Kemba has never really been in this position where he's actually on a good team. This is really his first time. And so I had liked them, but with his knee injury, I'm not so sure. I don't know if it's a sleeper, but I don't think Milwaukee's path to the chip is so easy because Toronto, man. Toronto with
you.
The experience, the depth, just watching Siakam and Nobi, Norman Powell, all these guys just get after it on the defensive end. They have the killer, Lowry with the killer instinct, Van Fleet, Gasol is the savvy vet, Ibaka, right? Serge out there, like to me, what's gonna hurt the Bucks is number one, their depth. I don't think they have the same depth on the bench. And also, you take them out of their home court, even playing field, no crowd, and I think the Freak is going to have a lot to prove to really show that he can carry his team in this tournament. I like the Raptors in the East, man.
I'm with you, man. I feel the same way. My buddy compared Giannis right now to kind of like Lamar Jackson, like show me that it's not just the regular season, right?
Yeah.
Until you show me, I don't know if I can believe it. And it's not so much with Giannis that I don't believe that he's going to bring it. It's just that, like you said, their bench, man, like who's going to be that guy but outside of Chris Middleton,
right?
Outside of Giannis, that's going to be able to be like, yo, it's the playoffs. I'm putting up 25 tonight. Yeah. Who's going to be – the Raptors have that with Van Vleet, some of these other guys that they got – who coming off their bench. I don't see that. Like, look, Dante DiVincenzo, he had a huge run with Nova and showed he could show up, and I love him. He's a great player. I don't know if he's the guy. I don't know if I'd want to rely on him this early in his career to be that guy that takes them over the top. They just, I feel like they're one piece away. Maybe Eric Bledsoe, it's finally his year.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe it's finally his year. But I'm with you. The Raptors look great, man.
Raptors look excellent, man.
And if they make the finals too, like let's say the Lakers come out, their big guys can kind of give Anthony Davis fits.
It's true.
They'll make him work. Anthony Davis is a great player. He's going to get his. But, Gasol, Ibaka, even Siakam switching on to him, they're gonna make him work. And then it's, an older version of LeBron trying to get the most out of a similar situation to Milwaukee where who's the Lakers guy? You got to hope Deion Waiters J.R. Smith get hot.
Waiters and J.R. got to get hot, man. I think they're gonna miss the defense that A.V. Bradley brought, and even Rondo at points. But you still can't put nothing past LeBron. In the West, no. The Clippers, I just never know who that Clipper team is. They've never really established themselves this year. We'll see what happens when they get a full stack, with Lou and Herald and all of them. But I just don't know who this Clipper team is right now. Watching Porzingis, Hardaway, and Trey Burke drop 90 on the Rockets was tough to watch. But that was a good game, though. Not a defensive game, but that was a good game. And Brody and the Beard look like they got something to say too. So it's gonna be very interesting, man.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked. It's basketball is back. I couldn't be happier. I love grinding college games, international games out. It's a lot of fun to me. I love cutting up clips of all these prospects, but at my core, I love the NBA game, and I'm happy that after months of it being gone, it's back. It's back in the summer. It feels right.
Yeah. It's an interesting time indeed, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Let's go to 2 quick calls before we close it. My guy Jay from Florida in the building. He's a.k.a. the anti-Halliburton. Jay, what up, man?
Bro, I had to call in because y'all was talking about Halliburton, bro. Oh, my God, bro. Ain't no way Tibbs has drafted Halliburton to run his offense, bro. No way in the world. It's not happening. The last man I would pick to run point guard for the New York Knicks is Halliburton. You know what I'm saying? Run it up. I want y'all to hit that thumbs up for your boys. Run it up. Corey, I like your videos, man. Your videos are high. I like your videos. Listen, bro.
That,
Cole Anthony, if we 6 to 8, we got to pick Cole Anthony. He's from New York. He can handle the pressure. Look at Dennis Smith. You can see Dennis Smith body language. We can't be picking these kids from the South to come to New York and ball. Dennis Smith be pounding and his shoulders be down. Knox be pounding, his shoulders be down. With a cat like Cole Anthony or Coro, they play hard, man. We don't got to worry about they motor. You know what I'm saying? Back to what you were saying last show, CP, about free agents. I'm not paying Van Fleet, right? I'm paying Jeremy Grant. Because if you put Mitch and Jeremy Grant on the front line, that's madness,
nice. Yep.
right?
Rams.
That's defense for years, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm putting with Mitch for the next 10 years. Yeah, man, we got to get this right. I'm trading the picks for Melo, too. I'm trading the picks because the Mavs ain't going to be trash for the next 5 years, bro. The Mavs going to be hot.
Yeah,
so I'm trading 21 and 23. 21 picking. I'm getting in on Melo right now. Because Tibbs ain't losing no 50 games, bro. Tibbs is going in to try to win. So trade all the picks, get Melo, get Jeremy Grant, Patrick Williams at the end of the first round. We got to start looking at them cats from FSU. Look at Isaac. Look at everybody come out of FSU. They ball hard. They play defense. You know what I'm saying? Let's get Patrick Williams at the end of the first round, and let's run it out, man. I'm done. Right. I'm out, man. Y'all stay good.
Appreciate the call, man. Hey, Jay's my guy. He's always a good call. He's the anti-Halliburton, man. And
I'm with him.
He's putting all his chips in the middle of the table for Cole or LaMelo, man.
That's a good plan. He had a good plan. I like Cole, man. Cole's getting slept on a little bit. He's getting slept on a little bit because he's in a tough situation at Carolina. That team had absolutely no spacing. He was the only dude that could get his shot. He was coming off an injury, so his bounce wasn't there. He had to hit real tough shot, like everything he had to work for, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, with Tibbs, he's another one of those guys that is the kind of scoring point guard that he's had success with. The DJ Augustins, the John Lucas, the Nate Robinsons. He fits that mold a little bit, and like you said, he's from New York. He could handle the pressure. You can't hate Cole Anthony. You can't hate on Cole Anthony at around that pick.
I can't get a good read on Cole Anthony, man. I can't, people are like, oh, he's DSJ, he's this, is that. I can't get a good read on him because of the situation in Carolina, not having a good team with him, the injuries on and off. He had the meniscus tear and all of that. I can't get a good read on Cole Anthony to legitimately say that he will not be a good prospect for this team. Can't do it.
Well, Well, that's why he slipped a little bit, right? That's why, you got guys, if you read some mocks, and look, I don't know how much NBA executives put into the mocks, but you look at some of the mocks, you got him sliding all the way to the back of the lottery, and sometimes even like out of the lottery. Mm-hmm. And this is a kid who was being talked about as the number 1 pick at the beginning of the year, and while that happens, he balled out in AAU, and typically that's a good indicator of success because you are playing those high level guys. But yeah, like you said, it's hard to get a read on him just from the fact that he was in such a weird situation. But he's a guy who pushes the pace. He rebounds. He plays hard. You know that in the NBA nowadays, rebounding is a little bit easier. And when you go after rebounds, especially as a guard, there's value in that. Because you could start the break, get out, get easy buckets. So that is something that at the NBA level, kind of projects well for him.
And I don't see the DSJ comparisons, though. A lot of people comparing him to DSJ. Somebody in the chat said DSJ with dreads. I don't see it, man. I see him being a smarter player and a way better shooter than DSJ will be. But, time will tell. Time will tell, man.
Yeah.
Salute to everybody in the chat once again. The closer of the night, as usual, is going to go to Delano. Delano, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? How's everybody, man?
Good, man. What's going on?
What's up, man?
Ain't nothing much, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. I know everybody's been speculating, of course. Everybody's got their picks. Cole Anthony is somebody that they look at as far as a scoring guard and somebody that can drive the lane, what I'm saying? So you can possibly feed off of other guys. Of course, everybody wants LaMelo and Killian Hayes, Kira Lewis. My thing is I just want a starting caliber point guard, and I want to draft one. I don't want to go looking for a Fred VanVleet. I don't want to go looking for a trade for Chris Paul. I want to get one that's young enough to develop alongside of my young core. I don't want to go looking for somebody who already has a plethora of years. I want to be able to develop everybody together, because if the plan is to stick together, then I would like to at least have that core already built in, so that way whoever we get in, the waning moments or whatever the case may be, maybe by, instead of always having to draft by position of need, maybe, we just go for somebody who's just the best fit, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get to that point. So I would like us to do, whoever we draft, I just wanted to draft a starting caliber point guard, so we don't have to go looking to pay top dollar for one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, we've been looking for this since, we haven't drafted a great point guard since who? Mark Jackson? Charlie Ward was decent, man, but he wasn't Mark Jackson. We didn't draft Steph. That was probably the last great point guard that we had. So it's been a while. It's been a while, Corey, man, and we'll see. Come August 20th, the NBA draft lottery is upon us. We'll see what the fate has in store for the Knicks, man. I don't know. I can't call it. I hope we get top 3. The odds are it probably won't happen. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
Got a plan for everything.
Yeah, these guys got to have a plan for everything, man. But appreciate the call, Delano. Corey, definitely appreciate the time, man. Let's let me get my outro music on so we can salute you and yeah, just let everybody know where to find you, bro.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. This is a blast. You can find me on Twitter at Hardwood Herald. YouTube, search Hardwood Herald. You can see all my draft videos that I've been doing. Started a morning show, 9 o'clock a.m. If you follow my Twitter, you get a link to it. We talk about the NBA, current events, big picture stuff. Podcast, do a movie podcast, basketball movie podcast called Nothing But Netflix. We're dropping Celtic Pride tomorrow, but on the New York tip, we did Eddie with Jonathan Macri at Knicks Film School, and that was a lot of fun. We saw some old Knicks in there, Anthony Mason, Mark Jackson, some John Starks action. Real good time, real good talk. So Nothing But Netflix. You can get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And if you want to check out some of my writing, hardwoodherald.com.
HardwoodHerald.com, man. Great job as usual, and great job by all the fans for tuning in. We almost hit 800 tonight. Almost hit 800. Corey, they were coming out to see you, man.
Let's go.
Almost hit 800. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. You know the protocol. Definitely want to shout out everybody that sent a super chat in tonight. I want to shout out Kamara Murray as well, bro. Hebrew Remnant, appreciate it as usual. And for those of you that didn't leave a super chat, it's all good. Just support us in other ways. Hit that thumbs up button. Share these videos. Share it on Twitter, Facebook, email, text, whatever it is. Leave a comment. Leave a comment. What do you think about the prospects of a Devin Vassell? What did you think about the pros and cons of a Zach LaVine trade and everything else that we talked about tonight? Leave a comment into the chat. And as usual, man, appreciate everybody for tuning in once again. As the world turns, Knicks edition. Salute to all the mods. Thanks for helping out as usual. Knicks Fan TV, Dave, great job. Prana, appreciate it. Joe Collins, appreciate it. Dalsim25, definitely appreciate it. Nice 718. Kenny Scott, Alex Trataro, Sherwin M, all the regulars that are in here, man. Great job as usual. Check you guys next time. Peace.